Good evening. We are back to the study of the Spirit's book. We are on chapter 2 of book 4, which is Future Joys and Sorrows, part of book 4, which is Hopes and Consolations. We started last week on nature of future joys and sorrows. We did a couple of questions, 965 and 966. We're going to start today on 967. And Paco, can you read for us? You're mute.
My pleasure. 967. What does the happiness of good spirits consist of? In knowing all things, feeling neither hatred, jealousy, envy, ambition, nor any of the passions that make human beings miserable. Their mutual love is the source of supreme happiness. They have none of the wants or anxieties of material life and are happy in the good they do, because the happiness of spirits is always proportionate to their degree of elevation. Only perfectly pure spirits enjoy the highest happiness. However, others are happy on different levels. Between bad and perfect spirits, there's an infinite range of elevation and happiness, as the joy of each spirit is always proportionate to its moral state. Those who have already achieved a certain degree of advancement have a perception of the happiness of those who are further along. They seek higher happiness, but as an object of emulation rather than jealousy. They know that it is solely up to them to reach it, and they work to that end with the tranquility of a good conscience. They're happy in not be having to suffer what inferior spirits endure.
So here Kardec asks the question, what does the happiness of good spirits consist of, right? Of course, we as imperfect spirits can have only an imperfect idea of what this happiness of good spirits may consist of, because we cannot understand what something that we never felt, because the happiness we feel here on earth is a limited happiness. It's a relative happiness, as the Spirit tells us, right? But the inferior sentiments that we still carry with us, right? The spirits describe here with the feeling, not having the feeling of hatred, jealousy, envy, ambition. Well, if we look deep down ourselves, we have all of them still within us. We may be fighting against them. We may have one more than others. There are people that have more envy, but there's than jealousy, people that have ambition or no ambition, but we all have some of it, right? So in having some of it, we can only have relative happiness. We have the passions that still makes human beings suffer. We don't understand the concept of fraternal love in its pure state. We understand the concept of limited love. And again, I'm not only even talking about passions, right? Love related to passion, which is what we experience here on earth, right? So the closest concept of pure love that we have here on earth, it's probably the way mothers feel for their children. Most of them, not all of them.
Very good.
Always, yes. There are always exceptions.
Yes.
In a way that there are fathers that are able to feel the pure love for their children, but it's in smaller number than mothers. Mothers are what is said the pure love, but still with it, right? Even mothers that deeply love their sons, they have imperfections. So you see mothers having jealousy or having uncomfortable feelings towards their children in terms of the inferior tendencies we have. So the idea of the the superior happiness of the spirits, it's a concept that we can only imagine, talk about it, but we cannot really fully understand. Something that they mentioned here between bad and perfect spirits, there is an infinite range of elevation and happiness. There is also something that we have to take into consideration. When we look around us here in our inferior planets, that we have people that seem happy from a distance, we never know close if they are really happy in a sense that, because the way we understand happiness here probably is in the sense of peace of mind, right? When you reach the level where you accept your limitations, you accept your challenges as an opportunity to learn and grow, and you accept the life you have as the best for you. But how many of us are in that condition, right? It's very, very, very few. Because even amongst those that we consider more elevated spirits that lived amongst us, we hear stories that they had some issues, right? We talked about Mother Teresa, clearly a more evolved spirit. And she, by the books that describe her, she had some short fuse in some situations, right? Chico Xavier, also a much more elevated spirit than we are, he had some complaints here and there, right? Because he had a lot of physical struggles, and there are some stories of him complaining to Emmanuel about his struggles, right? So even those spirits that are more elevated than we are here on Earth, they are not free of this, of some of the issues we have. So for us to imagine spirits at a higher level with more happiness, possible, yes, because we can imagine the concept of living with full peace of mind, regardless of the situations you face. But it's only imagining, because we don't really fully understand. The spirits say here that the more evolved spirits are happy in not having to suffer what inferior spirits endure. We can kind of understand that, right? Because when we look at the strugglings of some other individuals, we are happy that we don't have to endure some of the situations that they face. And I'm not talking about material. I'm talking about mental issues, spiritual issues. So the more evolved spirits, they can look back at their past, because the more you advance, the more you are able to see in your past. And they are able to see how they may feel this happiness of seeing that they no longer have to face those challenges. Like when you finish a class in school or college, right? That you really learn, and you are happy that you don't have to go through again the study, the struggles for you to learn, and then next one comes. But again, it's very imperfect ways for us to try to understand what is the happiness, the perfect happiness of that the good spirits have. So I think we have a limited understanding. That's all we can have. But it's something for us to first know that it's possible. Second, to aspire, right? How can I walk towards this higher happiness? Trying to find peace of mind in our lives. Try to find ways not to be disturbed by the troubles and the problems we face in our daily lives. Again, easy to say, very hard to put in practice, but at least we know, right? To know is the first step, right? From knowing to putting into practice, it's a difficult second step, but it's a way for us to begin. Okay? Questions, comments?
Can you talk a little bit about this? What is it? This emulation versus jealousy.
Uh,
It says
yeah,
they seek
yes,
higher happiness, but as
yeah,
an object of emulation rather than jealousy. But
yeah,
I wonder if at the beginning is jealousy. This is my thinking. At the beginning, since we are so far behind in our what you call it, in our nature, okay, we have not reached yet perception. So we probably feel jealousy, and then when that get get us nowhere, then we switch to emulation. That's my. I'm
yes,
thinking out loud. You
yeah.
know, I'm always I think out loud, and I wait for you to to guide me. Am I
Okay.
correct?
Yeah, what
Because
they're talking here is when you reach a certain degree of evolution, you look up as a target, but not with jealousy, right? So
exactly.
let's say you have I think the example that we may use here, which is not it's not a perfect one, but let's say you work with a great chef in a cuisine in our restaurant, right?
Yeah.
And you admire the chef and the way that he cooks and the way that he prepares food, and you want to learn from him, you want to be like him, but you're not jealous of him. You admire him. You want to achieve that that degree of qualification, right? That he has or she has, and you want to learn and you want to grow. What can I do to reach the level of that person?
Yeah,
It's not a
but
and
just prior to that point that you are mentioning, just prior before that point that you're mentioning, there's probably a degree of jealousy prior to that.
yeah, here with us imperfect spirits, yeah.
Exactly. That's my point. Yeah.
But you know, I give an example of us imperfect beings, right? Because we are capable of admiring someone that is better than us and at our profession or our whatever we do without being jealous. We are capable of that, and we see many people able to do that, right? Um, so if we are capable of doing that in a limited degree, we can only imagine that more evolved spirits can look at spirits above them
Yeah.
with emulation, right?
Yeah.
You think, spirits that work directly with Jesus, let's say. Do you think they are jealous of Jesus? They are not, right? They are. Uh, they want to work for Jesus, want to help and assist him, but there is no jealousy. There is a target for them, knowing that one day they will be at the same level of Jesus, right? I don't know if you have any or any other examples that we may think of.
Jesus Christ did say, "This you would do one more." So
Yeah,
he was definitely motivating people to emulate him.
yes, exactly. Yeah.
I think an example would be a disciple to admire the wisdom of the master and understand that through that wisdom, the master has a degree of happiness bigger than that. So the disciple seeks to learn from that master, admire his wisdom, wants to be as wise as the master is, but not out of jealousy, out of what's the word? Of better him or herself
Improving themselves, yeah.
of the master. Because in that song, because in that degree of wisdom, there is also an elevated degree of happiness, but not of jealousy. Having a target to reach a level of wisdom that guides towards happiness.
Thank you.
Okay, next.
968. You stated that the absence of material wants is one of the conditions of happiness for spirits. It is not the satisfaction of these wants a source of joy for people? Yes, it is an animal pleasure. When people cannot satisfy those wants, they're tortured by them.
Yeah, here we are going back to us here, right? Incarnate spirits. Our needs are still a lot of material needs, our wants, right? And needs. And when we cannot have what we want, we become tortured by the lack of them. Again, we in general, right? There are exceptions in all cases. There are those completely obsessed, and there are those that can live better without being attached to material things, which is our objective here, right? But the absence of material wants, when we're talking about the spirits in the spiritual world, is a condition of happiness. In a way, the issue is when you are back in the spiritual world, if you left behind material wants or material needs, you are going to suffer in the spiritual world. To get rid of those material wants is one of the conditions of happiness for the spirits, of course. So a spirit that was addicted to something here on earth and goes back to the spiritual world, the addiction continues. So they have to attach themselves to the addicted incarnated ones so they can find the satisfaction. And if they cannot satisfy this addiction, they are tortured. They are tortured by it. So that's what the spirits are telling us here. Getting rid of the material wants psychologically is one of the conditions of happiness, right? And it is not something that is easy, because even when we are elevated enough not to have any material wants, there are always, as we are incarnated here, there are always some of the wants that we still have, right? We all have our things that we like and that we want to keep, and that if we think of ourselves, if I go back tonight to the spiritual world and I'll wake up there tomorrow, what am I going to miss? Not talking about loved ones, we're talking about material things, right? When we talk about, for instance, routines, people like their routines. A lot of people like their routines. So they're going to miss their routines, watching TV every night or having their coffee in the morning. These are all material things that, it's our wants that are part of our lives. So to get rid of those ones is a necessity that we have in order to find happiness when we are back in the spiritual world. That's
What? Yeah. What about those people? Because sometimes I have to share this. Sometimes it's beyond my comprehension. These tycoons that want more and more money and more money. How much enough is enough? You
yeah.
know, it's
It's a mental disease. It's a lack of understanding of who we really are. So because they have a tendency to think that they are going to find, when we talk about happiness, right? Their happiness is based on acquiring more, in being better than the next one, in having more than the next one, is everything based on material possessions. That's their source of happiness as they understand it. But it is in the end, it is a disease.
it is a
Because,
disease. Yeah,
yeah,
I like that.
because what happens is, as we understand that we are all
I
uh,
like that.
living here on a temporary, in a temporary state, right? We are all going back to the spiritual world, and everything material is going to be left behind. When
Yeah.
you lived your whole life just for material things, the emptiness of not having anything when you are back in the spiritual world is going to make you suffer. And remember, André Luiz describes in the book, In the Greater World, the meeting with his grandfather, right? Grabbing mud in the lower zones, thinking that he is protecting his gold, right? Completely deranged. This is a type of an individual André Luiz describes. When he was alive, he only thought about accumulating wealth, and the only person he cared about was André Luiz. So that's why when André Luiz was able to reach to him and provide the assistance. So these people are going to end up in very difficult places in the spiritual world because it's going to be empty, right?
Definitely.
When you lose, you spend your whole life focusing on material things, and you no longer have them. I think the example that I find very interesting is the example of people winning the lottery, right? And after 6 months, the state of happiness is back to what it was before they won the lottery. So they solve their material issues, right? Whatever material problems they had, they solved. Why are they not happy? Because that doesn't bring happiness, right? Material possession brings temporary happiness, brings flash of happiness, but not full happiness. Full happiness you only find when you have peace of mind, the relative happiness that we can achieve on earth. So these individuals, again, there are many of those that try to help and assist others. We're not blaming all of them on being selfish and obsessed with their fortune, because there are many of them that really try to help and assist those in need. So we cannot generalize, but there are many of those that only think about their wealth and how to
That's
have
it.
the best plane. And first is the best car. When they have money enough, is the best plane. When they have the best plane, they have to have a fleet. And it's material acquisitions on top of a material acquisitions.
Never ending. Never ending.
Yeah, something is missing there. It's clear, right?
Yeah, I think so. You said it's like a disease.
Yes, it is, because something is missing. You cannot find full happiness in material things. It's going to be temporary, right? Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead. 969. What does it mean when people say that pure spirits are united in God's heart in active devotion? Okay. The statement is an allegorical representation of the knowledge they possess with regard to God's perfections. They see and understand God. However, you must not interpret this metaphor any more literally than other segments of similar nature. Everything in nature, from the grain of sand up, is devoted, meaning proclaim God's power, wisdom, and goodness. You must not assume that high spirits are absorbed in eternal contemplation, which would be an unwise and monotonous happiness, and furthermore, a selfish one, because their existences would be of perpetual uselessness. They no longer undergo the tribulations of corporeal life, an exemption that is a joy in itself. As we said, they know everything. They make use of the intelligence they have acquired in helping the progress of other spirits. They find great joy in this occupation.
Okay, so here again, we are trying to describe with our limited vocabulary what it is a perfect spirit and or pure spirit, and how they are in relation to God, right? When we talk about Jesus, and Paco mentioned earlier, right? Jesus told us, "You can do everything that I do and more." If Jesus is a pure spirit and a perfect spirit, and he's telling us that we can do more than him, it means that there is something more than Jesus, right? So when Spirit tells us that we are always progressing, even when we become perfected spirits, we continue progress. The best definition that I heard on this progress of perfected spirits is that they are getting closer and closer and closer to God without ever fully reaching God, right? You imagine two lines converging to the infinite without ever touching one another. I thought that was a very good definition, right? Because in that you can see that there is always evolvement. Now, we can barely understand Jesus. We want to understand what is above Jesus. For us, we should try to understand the teachings of Jesus, and that's already very difficult for us. But we learn that God is inside of each one of us, right? So we are God's creation, and we are part of the universe. So we are all part of God's creation. We are walking towards God in the sense that we are evolving until we reach perfection. Then we no longer need to reincarnate, but we continue to evolve. And here they say, they describe in a way that we can understand, right? Everything in nature, from the grain of sand up, is devoted, meaning proclaim God's power, wisdom, and goodness. So God is everywhere because God is the creator of everything. But of course, the more evolved you are, the more interested and willing you are to help others, because that's the true nature of the spirit's evolution. Without charity, there is no salvation, as we learn in Spiritism. So charity is helping and assisting others. Without it, there is no progress. So for these spirits to progress, they have to help less evolved spirits. They make use of their intelligence they have acquired in helping the progress of other spirits. And they find great joy in this occupation. Again, the example that we have of the governor of Nosso Lar that André Luiz told us, that been working there for 200 years without stopping. Because when you are doing something with great joy, and again, when you are in the spiritual world, you don't feel tired if you it's all mental, right? So if you are fully happy with what you're doing, you have joy and you have happiness, you don't need the rest, right? You are working without stopping. Can we understand that? I don't think we fully can. I don't think we fully can grasp this concept, because when we read that the governor of Nosso Lar has been working for 200 years, our first reaction is, "Whew, really?" But so we cannot understand, because our limited comprehension of working is, where are my vacations? Where is my day off? Right? And when we move back to the spiritual world, all of this, that is all mental, but we still see spirits having to sleep in the spiritual world to get a break from themselves, having to rest. Like André Luiz describes periods of rest, right? That they've been working and they were coming the next day back to continue the work. Where did they go? They're going to rest. What rest? It's mental rest, right? Because at the level of André Luiz, at our level of evolution, if we are working the spiritual world, helping others, we are going to get mentally tired, because it's going to be a struggle when we see all the suffering, we see all the struggles, we see all the need of help that they need, and we are working intensely. At our level of evolution, we will need rest. We are not at a stage that won't need. And again, in the spiritual world, will be mental rest. It's not physical rest, because we don't have a physical body. But as you become more and more evolved, you no longer need rest, right? Chico Xavier used to work without stopping, right? And used to work until 1, 2 a.m. and wake up at 5, 6 a.m. and start working again. And he was to sleep 2, 3 hours, 4 hours a night, right? And there was a very interesting passage in his life, right? When when he was still young, right? That he went out, instead of working, he went out with friends one night. And he went back home and went to sleep the same 3, 4 hours. And the next day he was exhausted. And then he asked Emmanuel why he was so tired. And Emmanuel said, well, when you are working for us, we are going to help you rest. When you are working for yourself, you find your own rest, right? So, that's an example. When we are doing something positive, we will receive the assistance of the spiritual benefactors. But of course, Chico had a physical body. Our physical body needs rest and everything, right? The Spirits tells us in the Spirits book, we need rest. We need to take good care of the physical body. But when we are back in the spiritual world with no physical body, everything is mental. So our necessity of rest will still exist for some time. But after we reach a certain level of evolution, we no longer will need rest, because work will be pure joy all the time. Can we grasp the concept? I don't believe we can still. I don't think we have the capacity of fully understanding it. It's just knowledge for the time being, right?
We'll go back to intention, right? There's no intention is coming back. When you work and your intention is to work, the work itself becomes a source of happiness, because that's what you intend to do for. When we work with the intention of a real work, in our case, in financial, paychecks or something else, then it's not as enjoyable anymore, because the work itself is not what you want. What you want, your intention is a reward. So when we learn to work for the sake of working, seeing in work the source of happiness, then we're not gonna get tired. As a spirit, this whole body gets tired, this whole body gets rest. But as a spirit, we're not gonna get tired. Or when you go to Nosso Lar and we all can expect to get bonus hours, We're gonna need some rest.
Okay. Now something that we will understand. Go, Paco, 970.
Okay. What does the suffering of inferior spirits consist of? The suffering is as varied as the causes by which they are produced, and correspond to the inferiority of each spirit, as the joys of higher spirits are proportionate to their superiority. Their suffering may be summed up as follows: envying the superiority that makes other spirits happy and their inability to obtain it, feeling regret, jealousy, rage, and despair in regard to what prevents them from being happy, and being tormented by remorse and indescribable moral anguish. They long for all sorts of joys and are tortured by their inability to satisfy their cravings.
Okay, now we are back to us, right? We can understand that. Here they're talking about inferior spirits in the spiritual world, but we can read that as an incarnate being, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do we suffer here? We suffer because we have envy of the others that have more than we have, more knowledge, more wealth, more happier happier children, happier wife or husband, or not annoying relatives. We find problems everywhere around us, and that's the sign of an inferior spirit, right?
Exactly.
You regret for the things we should have done and did not do, or the opportunities we missed in our lives. We feel jealous of those that have more than us or are more successful than us. We despair because we find that maybe now it's too late. All these things that prevent us from being happy. We go back to the spiritual world, we carry all of these things with us, right? And so we carry this moral anguish. So we are going to find ourselves in the spiritual world surrounded by spirits that suffer, think, and behaves like us. And we are going to find ourselves struggling. Misery loves company. We are going to be surrounded by those spirits that are as miserable as we are, or if we have the understanding and the ability of recognizing our imperfections, actively fighting to overcome our imperfections, trying to become better each day, which is what Spiritism tries to teach us, then we are going to find ourselves back in the spiritual world in a place that will help us continue this progress, like a nosso lar type of colonial, spiritual colony, right? When we have no awareness of what is the spiritual world, what we are supposed to do that, and we are not open to receive help, we are going to find ourselves in difficult situations. So that's why we are here preparing ourselves. So even if we understand and accept that we are still jealous, we still have regrets, we have despair, we have remorse and all these things, but the awareness of having them and the willingness to overcome them, if possible, understanding that we're not going to overcome all our imperfections in one incarnation, will allow us to receive the help and assistance of the spirits that are always ready to help and assist us, right? But if we are not, if we close ourselves in all these inferior sentiments and feelings, then we are going to make life much more difficult for ourselves. Okay?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Is the influence exercised by spirits over one another always good? It is always good on the part of good spirits, for perverse spirits try to lead astray those whom they believe to be susceptible to to be misled from the path of repentance and amendment, and whom they have often led into wrongdoing during an earthly life. So, does death not deliver us from temptation? No, but the action of malevolent spirits is much less powerful over other spirits than over incarnates because they no longer feel material passions.
Okay, so that's interesting concept that we get back
Yeah,
here, right?
explain.
Yeah. First thing is, good spirits will always try to influence other spirits to do good, right? To help, to assist. It's always good on the part of good spirits. So when André Luis finally asks for help, there are spirits there ready to help him, take him to the hospital in Ossolar, and he receives treatment and he receives assistance. No one there is trying to cause him any harm, trying to cause him any difficulties. On the contrary, they are trying to make things easier for him if he understands and accepts. Now, inferior spirits are always trying to lead astray those who they believe to be susceptible. So you go to the book Liberation, the leader of the dark zones there, of the evil zones called Gregorio. He dominated a large number of spirits that are susceptible to being misled. Why? Because he controls them through their inferior tendencies, their guilt, their remorse, and their lack of understanding of the possibility of going on a different path. So they have often led in wrongdoing during earthly life, and they are back in the spiritual world, and they are susceptible to these inferior spirits. If you remember the movie Ghost, when the assassin goes back to the spiritual world, that you have those dark clouds, which are spirits coming and grabbing him, right? This is exactly what they are talking here, right? They are susceptible to this type of spirits because they lived in a very low vibration, and they are going to associate with low order spirits. So the second one, which is a little more complex, what they are talking here, right? They are saying that the action of bad spirits is much less powerful over other spirits than over incarnates in the spiritual world, because the spirits no longer feel material passions. It's not exactly like that, right? It's a general statement from the spirits, but what happens is when the spirits are influencing someone incarnated, the person is unaware of the spirit influencing them. So if you are unaware, it's easier for you to be influenced. When you are in the spiritual world, you know what the spirits that are talking to you. You see them; they are talking directly to you. You are not unaware, so you have you have a choice to free yourself from them if you choose to sincerely ask for help, if you ask for repentance. So it's an easier way out of the influence. I'm not saying it's easy. There are those that spend centuries under the influence of these evil spirits, but over incarnates is more, the influence is more subtle, in the sense that the incarnates are unaware of the influence of these evil spirits. Sometimes, whenever someone is willing to commit a crime, immediately there is a number of evil spirits that associate with them to to inspire or to help them commit the crime, right? When we talked about suicide here a couple of weeks ago, we talked about a number of cases of people that try to commit suicide, and immediately after they act, they call for help, right? If they don't succeed. So it's this influence of the spirits is up there until they commit the act, then the spirits move away, and then you think for yourself and you ask for help. It's the same thing here, right? When they're influencing spirits, incarnate beings, the incarnates are not fully aware that they're being influenced. And when you are in the spiritual world, it's all very, but it's all clear, right? It's more transparent. The spirits are there in front of you. So all the spirits that were there in front of Gregorio were seeing him. We're seeing the tribunal, we're seeing the accusations. So, for them to get out of there, of course, they didn't know they were in prisons and everything. But the moment they opened themselves a small opening to be rescued, the assistance is there, which is what happened to Gregorio, right? How was Gregorio rescued after 500 years? He got bored of doing the same thing, persecuting people at the same time. The moment he got bored, he opened a small window and his mother went there and rescued him. So in the spiritual world, it is simpler to free yourself from this influence from the malevolent spirits, simpler than here when we are incarnated. I'm not saying that it's easy, because it's not easy, neither there or here, but it's simpler in the sense that you are seeing what's happening to you, right? I don't know if
I think unless it's a personal case between two spirits, for the incarnate, for describing the spirit, they can use regarding the spirit to acquire things that spirit still have passions toward, but not on a personal relationship. I like to drink. Incarnate, the spirits like to drink, and they use me to get the buzz. They don't know me, have no attachment with me anymore. Once I leave my physical body behind, I do not no longer serve as an instrument of those spirits anymore. They move away. They don't care. They go find somebody else, another incarnate. So it is easier also in that sense that unless the personal issue, we become target of spirit of our own vices, associated with material things. Once we can no longer be an instrument to provide the spirits what they seek, because we no longer have a physical body, they move on. They don't care about us anymore.
Okay.
$972. How do malevolent spirits tempt other spirits, since they do not have passions? Passions no longer exist materially. However, they still exist in thought for lower spirits, and the wicked ones keep impure thoughts in the victims by taking them to places where they witness the exercise of those passions and whatever else can excite them. But what is the purpose of these passions, since they no longer have any real object? That is precisely what tortures them. Monsters see gold they cannot possess. Depraved individuals see orgies in which they cannot partake, and arrogant people see honors that they envy but cannot share. That's a good, very good.
Yeah, so here the spirits explain exactly what happens when we are there in the spiritual world, right? The passions no longer exist materially, however, they still exist in thought. The example that Elmo just gave. If you have you are drinking here and you have spirits that are going to drink with you, you go back to the spiritual world. You no longer can drink, but you are still you still have the addiction. So you are going to attach yourself to those that are drinking here because you need to fulfill these cravings, right? Exactly. So they go look for people that can fulfill what they are missing. And again, it's not a complete fulfillment because it's not the same,
Of course.
but they still feel something, right? So they describe here misers see gold that they cannot possess. Again, the André Luiz grandfather, right? He was grabbing mud as he was grabbing coins, thinking that they were coins, right? And then depraved individuals see orgies that in which they cannot partake, so they are there exciting their minds with watching other people's orgies, right? But they are not fully participating in it. And of course, we talked about the tycoons, right, Paco, that you mentioned. They are going to go back to the spiritual world, and how they are going to try to fulfill the emptiness, associating themselves with other billionaires or millionaires that are achieving things that they used to achieve when they were incarnates, and try to influence them to achieve more because they will feel somewhat the pleasure of achieving something indirectly that they used to achieve directly. So that's how the spirits feed themselves in the spiritual world. And that's where we see the problems that we have right here. If we follow our inferior instincts, there are always spirits that want to associate with us to fulfill their own desires. And again, as Elmo pointed very well, it's not personal, so it's easy to get rid of those. The personal ones are the difficult ones, right? Someone you killed in a previous existence, or someone you abandoned. These are personal. But someone that is just drinking with you, you stop drinking, you quit, they're going to go somewhere else. They don't need you. And they are using you because they're already used to you. But if you can no longer be company to them, they're going to the next one. So that's why, prayer, again, the spirits recommend prayer, that we elevate our thoughts, that we try to disconnect from our inferior thoughts, inferior tendencies, because by doing that, we disconnect from these companies that, the temporary companies. The moment we disconnect from them, let's say you come to a spiritist center, and these companies cannot come inside because they are in no condition of being helped and assisted. And you leave the spiritist center with your thoughts elevated, and they cannot find you. They're not going looking for you desperately. They'll look for you because they are attached to you. But if they cannot find you, they move on, and you are free from them. So that's the idea of how these influences work when we are here incarnated, and influence of the spirits to back to us. Okay.
There's a word for when you live through the experience of all this, but this is escaping me now. But there's a word in English for that.
For what?
For experiencing whatever other is experiencing, you experience it, even though you're not there. But
It's not
just like these people, like
through someone else.
yeah,
Oh, vicarious.
vicarious. That's the word.
Yeah, I think so.
Vicarious experience. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. All right. We're going to stop here. Next question is a long one, so we're going to leave for next week. Okay. So this Saturday we have the talk by the United States Spiritist Federation is by Jussara. She's going to talk about Bartimaeus and Zacchaeus, a journey through Jericho. Jussara has been studying famous figures in religious history, and she's actually finishing a book on that. So it's very fresh, all these famous religious figures of history. This Sunday is the 4th Sunday of July. We are going to have our Q&A session. Please bring your questions. Let's talk about it. We have our website, new website, right? New version of our website, more easy to access, with the books, with information, with our schedule and direct links to the schedule. You can ask for prayers there. There is a button that you can go directly and ask for prayers for our prayer group that is on Tuesday mornings. It's very easy and friendly to access it. So I invite you to take a look at it, okay? Carol, can you do our final prayer?
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, John, for hosting. And Elmo, welcome back. I hope you're feeling much better. We are in your prayer group. Thank you. And thank you, Paco, for reading for us this evening, and everyone who is here. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we give thanks to be together as brothers and sisters for our studies of the Spirit's Book, Book 4, Chapter 2. The title is The Nature of Future Joys and Sorrows. We understand limited love and relative happiness. Only perfect spirits enjoy the highest happiness, for they have gone beyond hatred, jealousy, envy, and tainted ambitions. We can only imagine full peace of mind. We have needs and wants materially, and we can reduce our attachments little by little with practice and awareness. We continue to evolve as we endeavor to help others, and as we express this, we find more joy and happiness. Eventually, we will become a perfect spirit closer in alignment to God. Bad spirits can influence incarnates with lower vibrations and impure thoughts, especially if the incarnates are unaware or addicted to various vices or negative actions. We give thanks to the spiritual benefactors and the good spirits for guiding and inspiring us this evening. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us, and for our loved ones, our teachers, our directors, our counselors, our mediums, our workers, and all of our participants. We pray for inner peace, and especially now for world peace, and for those who are suffering in the physical and spiritual worlds. We pray for our center, SGNY, and all Spiritus centers throughout the world, that they may grow, prosper, expand, and be protected throughout the day and throughout the night. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to our family, our friends, loved ones, and co-workers. And may we remind ourselves now to go forth as beacons of love, of light, of peace, of service, and charity, which is love in action. May peace and love prevail. So be it.